Hello, welcome to Shed TV. My name's Keith. In this episode I'm going to be looking at a broken Makita Reciprocating saw and trying to get it going again. Now I bought this some months ago on eBay and I can't off the top of my head remember which model it is. I've not even got around to unpackaging it. Here it is in the box still. But I'll put the a picture and a model number up on the screen now so you can see which one we're dealing with. The eBay listing said that 1 minute this was working and the next it wasn't, but as the bloke needed another one for work, he'd gone and bought a new one. I bought it for £20. That included the postage, which I thought was definitely worth the gamble. So let's get it out of the box and see what we've got to play with. Okay then, see what we've got. Oops. Ooh, instruction book, wouldn't have expected that. Well, the box has certainly seen some use and the machine looks like it probably has too. So I've seen worse. Let's get it plugged in and see what it does. Right, let's see what happens. Well, it certainly runs. I suppose then it's a question of whether it actually cuts and whether there's some other fault with it, or whether it's got an intermittent fault. In the end here, obviously there's no blade and there's no foot or shoe, or whatever you call it. I've got some blades that I bought on the shelf. And I've got a replacement shoe, so I'll stick those on and put a bit of something in the vise, and we'll see whether we can cut. This is the new foot or shoe, and there's a locking tab in the end of the saw here, a red button, which pushes between. How can I show you that? That way. Pushes between one side and another. That's unlocked, and then the shoe just kind of slips in the end. And locks. Here's a replacement saw blade. They just pop in there, and then there's a, if you can see that there, you pull that round, pop the blade down and then tighten that, and then that's got the blade nice and tight. Just going to put my safety glasses on and fire that up again, make sure that runs with the blade in. Let's have a go at cutting through this bolt. Well, it does work. It did cut part way through there. I don't think it's running as well as it perhaps should. I wonder if the the gearbox is slipping. I think it might be time to take the cover off and have a look. Blade out, shoe out, and I assume I have to take this outside rubber cover off. Wonder if that comes right off. Maybe not. Right, if there's going to be a problem, I think it's going to be in here where the reciprocating mechanism presumably is. So I'm going to whip that cover off. Blimey, I'm out of breath. And have a look. I think I need some new gloves first. That screw is proving to be very stubborn. I don't want to round it off or break it off. Just try and rock it a bit, maybe put a bit of WD in. Now there's Loctite on these. I think I'm going to try and undo that with mole grips because I'm going to smash the head up otherwise. Might have to replace the screw. Don't know if it'll focus on that. I've only just got away with that. I think I'll have to order a new screw for that. Right then, let's have a look in here, see if I can zoom the camera in. Just going to give that a little tap with a copper hammer, see if I can loosen it. Well, that's the cover off there. There's a sort of seal with grease around the outside. I'm guessing that's correct. But under there must be some sort of like sort of friction type clutch or something. There's the lock nut. It's got a collar on the inside that goes downwards. Followed by a washer which is curved upwards. Followed by some sort of friction plate. There is a bit of grease around the edge of that. I don't think that's just from my finger there, because looking back at this, let it focus back on there, there is some grease on here. That friction plate goes face downwards, but I'm going to put it face upwards in my tray there. Now I'm going to lift this piece out somehow. Well, I assume I can lift it out. Do I need to? Or can I just clean it in situ? Oh yeah, there we go. That's the cog which goes onto a little sort of worm drive thing which you might be able to see there, and there's a load of grease in there which is probably correct. So I'm going to put that face down in my parts tray and give those a clean. So there's those two, what I assume are friction surfaces that probably shouldn't have grease on them. I've got this stuff, which is universal degreaser. I'm going to spray a bit of that on and give them a bit of a wipe over, try and get that grease off as much as possible. I think I might dry them out and repeat the process using a bit of cellulose thinners, which I have to hand. So hopefully they should be nice and clean now, ready to go back in. Just turning my attention back to the machine. I'm just going to wipe around this edge here so I don't accidentally put any grease on the I don't know what you call that, flywheel I suppose. I'm just going to use this cloth that's got a little bit of thinners on to do that. I don't really want to dilute the grease that's in there by dropping degreaser into there. It's all a bit guesswork this, to be honest, but it's making sense so far. So let's see whether I've made the machine better or worse. I'm going to take my gloves off and pick up these pieces with my bare hands so that I don't contaminate them with grease. And then this much cleaner looking friction plate going back on the top. With that in place, I'm just going to give another little wipe around the edges of that with my thinners around the middle. Very good. Then it's the washer that points upwards, followed by the lock nut, and that collar around the inside obviously locates the washer. Just realised that. Got my hands in front of the picture. Ooh. I'm not really sure how tight that's supposed to be, so I've made it as tight as a big bloke with a 300mm long adjustable spanner can make it. So that looks good. Time then for the external cover, which just pops onto the top. Just going to give that a little tap home with my copper hammer. And you may remember that the screws were had Loctite on them, so I'm just giving them a little wipe over with a bit of thinners. I'm just going to apply a few drops of Loctite thread locker onto the screws. Alright then, I'm going to pop these screws back in. I'm hoping that the one with the damaged top will actually go in and it'll tighten. Let's just give it a try. So I'm quite keen to oh yeah, that's going in. Quite keen to try this out and not wait for a replacement screw to come. Right, that's all good and tight. I'm just going to give this a wipe over and replace the rubber boot. Right then, let's see if that's been a triumph. Okay, I've got the rubber boot off it again. I'm taking it right off this time. I've noticed that this little bit here is loose, so I'm just going to take that off and see what is underneath there. Okay, there is a spring. Oh, that's just what holds the foot in place. Ah, I wonder if the foot wasn't in place and that's why it wasn't sawing properly. Okay, let's try that. If by some amazing chance this cures it, I'll take this out again and put a bit of Loctite under that screw. So I'm just going to put it back together. I'm not going to bother fitting the rubber for the time being. I'm just going to put the foot on and the blade in. Is that right? Yeah. Okay, let's try again. Absolutely no different. Well, I don't know what to make of that. Maybe using the bolt was a bad idea. That's just cut through that like butter. That's a piece of 3mm steel. Just put a little bit of Loctite on this screw that holds the spring clip mechanism together. This black boot, which let's try and get it in focus, which goes around the bit where the blade goes in, has all come to bits. So I've taken that off. Hopefully I can get a replacement one of those. For the minute I'm going to put this back together. Well, it is back together. I'm going to put the rubber boot back on and just give it all a bit of a wipe over, and I'll just try it out on one or two things. I'm not really sure that there is actually anything wrong with it now. I've either solved it or there was never anything wrong in the first place. Okay then, well, there it is. It appears to work. Whether the fault was the oil contamination on the flywheel, clutch plate, whatever it's called, which there did appear to be, whether it was a fault of the foot being loose, although I doubt it, I don't know. I wondered if, when I tested it out initially on this bit of on this bolt, that the saw blade was able to grab against those threads and cut part way through, even though it didn't work very well. But then when I tried it later on, having supposedly fixed it, I was actually on this smooth shank bit. Maybe it can't deal with that sort of stock. I don't know. Perhaps you can tell me, because when I tried to cut through this flat plate, as you saw, it whizzed through it like a hot knife through butter. So maybe that's me trying to use it for something it's not intended. Anyway, I think I've now got a tool that I'm going to find useful, and it hasn't cost me any money, and it's been an interesting learning curve as well. Though I'm not quite sure what I've learned. If you've got anything to add, please comment below, like and subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you again in a future video. Bye now.